Now we've developed a basic approach to melody, which is we've got our 5-note scale, the minor pentatonic, and we've got this idea of rhythmic organization. We've got a few techniques for working through the scale and so on. But what I'd like to do over the next couple of lessons is really get inside that scale and turn it from the mechanical scale, which is the dots on the neck and, you know, this fret and that fret, into the musical quality that really attaches it to blues. Like, you know, as I said in an earlier lesson, blues melody didn't come from people sitting down with a staff and a pen and saying, let's come up with some melodies here. It was people singing based on their experience, their cultural background, you know, the influences from Africa, a different melodic concept than was current in Europe at the time. It's not diatonic, it fits into cracks. And so, for example, when we look at the relationship of the minor pentatonic and the dominant 7th chord, we see that there's an apparent mismatch there. This is not supposed to happen. Minor scales are supposed to go with minor chords and major scales are supposed to go with major chords, but we've got a chord with a major third and a scale with a minor third. How can that be? Well, the answer is that there's actually a note in between, and this is true of a lot of blues melody. It doesn't fit exactly on the staff. It's kind of that in-between sound, and that's what we know as bluesy. We recognize it right away. Now you can imagine 100 and some years ago when people were first encountering blues outside of the kind of the rural districts where it was a fact of life. You know, when the guy that's given credit as the father of the blues, W.C. Handy, he was an educated musician, band leader, African-American. He was traveling through the South, and he told this now famous story of waiting for the train in Tutwiler, Mississippi, and he noticed down at the end of the platform there's this raggedy-looking guy sitting down, playing a guitar, rubbing a knife up and down the strings. He's going, "Whoa, I'm going where the Southern Cross the dog." You know, it's like, what the heck is that? And he became intrigued. He said it was the weirdest music I ever heard, but he got fascinated by the sound of it. Now, this is a guy who grew up in, you know, he was in an African-American culture in the South, but he hadn't encountered that sound before. And so what fascinated him was both the kind of the lyrics, what's he singing about, the presentation, he's playing the guitar with a knife. I mean, what's that about? And the melody is just kind of, it's in between there, you know? And so he started to capture these songs and write them down and write arrangements. And he wrote some very famous blues songs, one of which we're going to examine in a little bit here. And so this idea of blues melody kind of fitting in the cracks is one that's been fascinating musicians for a long, long time. Now, starting with the singers, we hear the singers do this constantly. And what you hear is this. We recognize that sound. We say, well, that sounds kind of bluesy, you know. It's not quite on the fret. It's a little bit sharp of that minor third. That is the blue third. It's the note in between the minor third and the major third. Now on the guitar, we have the luxury of bending a string. So we can find a note by just changing the pitch. All I got to do is pull that string down. Now I'm using my index finger on that note, pulling it slightly down. Now here's the deal, is that you don't want to pull it too far. That's too far. Now compare it to the major third. There's the major third. If I bend a minor third to a major third, I'm pulling it quite a distance actually. The blue note is right in between. So minor third, major third, and blue third. Now, if you're playing a piano, you can't do that. You can't bend that note. So what do piano players do? They crush it, as they call it. You know, they quickly whip the finger from one note to the other, you know, like a black key to a white key, and black, there you go. So it's a combination of the minor third and the major third. And that's also a common technique on the guitar. You know, it kind of comes back in reverse. So we can play a blue third by bending the note a little bit, by hammering on from the minor third to the major third to kind of create this hybrid effect, or by sliding from the minor third to the major third. They all work. The hammer-on and the slide sound almost exactly the same. So the choice of techniques there is really sort of how the context works out. But the essence of the sound is to get that feeling of always giving that minor third a little bit of a shading toward the major third. Now this becomes a habit to the extent that whenever you play the minor third, wherever you are on the neck, whatever key you're in, it's going to have that shade. Right? Now, I played 3 minor thirds in there. There's the first one. Here's the second one. And there's the third one. So wherever I find that note within the scale, I'm always going to give it, you know, a little bit of an extra flavor by bending it slightly. Alternatively, now that adds a little bit more of the emphasis on the major third, but it's still kind of that blue note sound. And this will sort of take us a little bit later on down into the question of how do you create different emotional effects, and they center around the third, the minor third, the blue third, and the major third. They all create slightly different emotional effects, and they all relate to the harmony in different ways as well. So we're kind of opening the door to this sort of a more advanced level of melodic playing. Now what I'm going to do right now is I'd like to play some phrases, and we'll do the call and response thing as we did before. And I'm going to emphasize the blue third, and I'm going to use the different techniques that I just described. The bend, and by the way, the bend, all you got to do is press down hard and pull that finger toward the floor. You can also push it toward the ceiling, but in the context of most phrases, in that position, that note on the third string is going to work better toward the floor. Now when you play the minor third on the first string, if you reach up to that high C there, use the supportive fingering, that technique that we talked about before. 3 fingers on the note. Doesn't take that much strength, but it adds an extra degree of confidence. Okay, so let's do the little call and response here. I'm going to use the different techniques. You'll hear how they sound, and you'll have a chance to recreate them right on the spot. And then, of course, you can loop this, this interaction here. And we're going to concentrate on the blue third, integrating the blue third into the minor pentatonic scale. Okay, here we go. Your turn. Oh yeah. Now check this out. Hammer on. Combination of both. Oh yeah. Emphasize the major third. Could keep going, but that covers some ground right there. So you heard as I was playing, and as you can see, in some cases I'm using the bend and I'm using the hammer-on. I didn't use the slide there at all. Now sometimes when I put a rhythmic emphasis on the major third, it is definitely major. It's not a blue third so much, but by having the minor third in front of it, it creates that sort of mixed quality where we have both sounds kind of blending together in your ear. You retain them both as you listen to the phrase. Now another little aspect of the blue third is that we often in blues phrases we surround the third. And what I mean by that is you've got the root here, you've got the fourth, and you've got the minor third, and you've got the major third, which combine to create the blue third. So a typical phrase, for example, right? So I'm playing and so on. We'll be using these phrases a lot as we go forward. So the idea there is that you've added a little bit, actually a new note to your vocabulary, two new notes, the quarter tone, which is the halfway point between the minor third and the major third, and then the combination by hammering on of the minor third and the major thirds. Now, we're going to talk about this more later, but because of this sort of diatonic hangover, you know, the concept that the minor world and the major world are separate and forever, you know, held apart from each other, and it's either one or the other. If you have that thought in mind, then you might be thinking, okay, when I go from the minor third to the major third, I'm changing tonalities, or I must be using a different scale. No, I'm playing within the blues tonality. The blues tonality encompasses minor and major. That's what makes it special. It's a third way. It's not one or the other, it's both. And that's the unique quality of blues. And once you kind of get that sound in your head and that understanding, it makes life a lot easier because you're not juggling scales all the time. You're just saying, no, it's just blues. It shoots right down the middle. And that's the reality of the sound. Okay, mess around with that blue third for a minute, and then when you come back, we'll tackle the next note in the scale.